Pavlos, what got you started as a violinist?
I'm coming from a family of 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. Our parents wanted us to learn music early on. The boys were headed for guitar and the girl for piano. Early on I understood that the guitar was not for me. There was this classmate at the first class of the primary school. He was playing the violin too, and we were playing soccer in the fields of our neighborhood. We were really good friends, so I got a little bit jealous, let's say. So I asked my father to start the violin, and that was it. He sent me to the Ethniko Odio, and then things got their way. We were born and raised in Nicosia. Our parents are refugees from different villages. My father from Kythrea and my mother from Agios Ambrosios of Kerinia, and both their parents, they are coming from Minor Asia. Like both families, they left Minor Asia in 1922. Because we are living in Nicosia, and because my family didn't really have like a culture of music in the family, only my father was a chanter, and he was a professional chanter at the churches. So this was the relationship with the music pretty much in the family. I didn't have the luck of having let's say Cypriot culture, let's say, of music in the home. So there was only one direction in music at that time for us. It was the classical music. So we headed to the conservatoire for the classical music. So that was it. Then the traditional music came on because of other influences. Since my, let's say, high school era, I started realizing that I liked something else than the classical music, and there was this focus on the Cypriot folk music, traditional music, for some reason, maybe because of our professors at high school. And I remember that I was asking my father, why don't you send me to learn some traditional music? He probably thought about it, and he searched, and he didn't really find a really good teacher at that time in Nicosia, somebody that could lead me to the right direction, let's say. And he was, my son, why don't you go and finish your studies in classical music, finish your university degrees if you want in classical music, and then you will find your way. And that filled me up with, let's say, not really good emotions, but as I'm growing up, and as I understand the situation way better than I did at that time, I feel that at the moment was the right decision from my father. The fact that I went to the classical music up to at least the least academical standard that is accepted, it gave me the experiences and the technique to be able to follow any kind of music that I wanted. Always though, I feel that music comes and generates and becomes more powerful if you were born in a place where the music is emerging, let's say. So there is probably a missing link, but I always tried my best to fulfill that link by going after different experiences around the whole area of Greece and Cyprus.
What has been the most memorable or key defining experience so far?
There are different and very specific moments from the time that I was in high school and later on in my music career, let's say, because I have another career doing like project management, operation management in research projects. As far as the music is concerned, when I was in Greece, living in Greece from 2005 to 2010, I was selected from a group to go and play some traditional music in a village close to the Albanian borders from Greece. In that area, they have a really strong tradition in their music and very specific way of playing their music. That experience really hit my mind, and it stayed permanent into what it led me to find out in a more strong way that every part of Greece or Cyprus, every city, they have their own local way of listening to a kind of music, and they want their music to be sound that way. So if somebody plays their music in a different way or very in a different approach, let's say, they just don't like it. Because we went there, and the clarinet player, who was a virtuoso clarinet player, he, as I understood later, he didn't sound really like the clarinet players of the area that the people were used to. So as soon as he started playing, there was this hesitation in the people that they were not standing to dance in the field that where the stage was. And I was like, what's going on? And then later on, I saw the mayor of the village. He came to the clarinet player. He was like, I'm sorry, but they do not accept you. And we were shocked, and I didn't know what to do, because the fiddle playing, let's say the violin playing in this repertoires is not like the protagonist. So I was like a servant of the music in a specific style of this kind of music over there. And I was like, what are we doing? And they ended up pretty much the whole panegyric because they didn't like the way the music was approached. And that for me was a straight punishment that showed me that if you want to serve some local music, you need to be very strict, and you need to be accurate, and you need to serve it with your soul, and totally. You cannot like pretend that you are playing this style and this style and this style. If you do something, you need to do it really, really well. Otherwise, you don't go further.
What are some of the most important projects you have worked on?
I had a good teacher. And Mr. Christodoulou had an ensemble, a string ensemble, that we had to go for rehearsals every Friday. And I don't remember one Friday from early on, let's say 8 years old, until I went to the army, 18 years old, that I missed one rehearsal. I went through all the stages in that string ensemble. Another ensemble was the Cyprus Youth Symphony Orchestra, that I started from the third violins, I went to the seconds, and then to the first. I went the whole route. I experienced all the treasures that the symphonic orchestra gave us at that time. Through that orchestra, I got the opportunity to be heard in an audition for the Orchestre des Jeunes de la Méditerranée. It was like they were making selections from each country that it borders with the Mediterranean. They were selecting a couple of musicians from each country every year, and there was this orchestra that we went for a summer for master classes and being part of this orchestra. When I went to the States to study something else, management information systems, then I wanted to study music also. So I went for audition to the Symphonic Orchestra of the University of Arizona. So I was selected there, started from the second violins and reached the concertmaster position before my graduation. And I had an external position there for the Philharmonic Orchestra of Tucson. So that was another experience in a more professional way before I graduated. And then after my master's degree in business administration in finance, I decided to go to Greece to learn more about traditional music. That was the turn, the point of time that I turned from classical to officially studying and experiencing the traditional music in my hands. I was visiting some cafeteria here in Nicosia, where a friend of my family, Pandelis, Jonas, he pushed me and he was like, "You are coming with me tonight and you are bringing your violin with you." So I went there and I met a really good musician, Yorgos Fundos, with his wife, Eleni Konstantinou, from the only ones that were playing Rebetika in a really good style at that time in traditional music. And Yorgos, he gave me a lot of recordings of violin players from Greece, and the one was more close to my ears was Professor Yannis Evgolis, so I went and visited him. And I asked him, could you give me some classes? And that was it. I stayed with him for 3 years in Athens. I was working as a banker at that time in Athens, so I could survive. I did like 2 more years studying in University of Indianapolis in Athens branch with 2 Russian violin instructors, graduates from the Conservatoire of Tchaikovsky in Russia. Little bit before my 30s, I got my degree in violin performance, and that Bachelor of Music, and that made me really happy that I finally did what I had in my mind from early on. All this experience led me to decide that I wanted to do something different and produce some work of my own or with some friends. It drove me to the initiation of this music group, which is called Trio Levante, which means music that originates from the East. It was me, Petros, and Pantelis that we made the Trio Levante, and we were playing Greek music from early era of 1910s to 1940s recordings, mostly from composers of the time that they were originating from Smyrna area, or their music was based on the music that comes from Minor Asia. Doing all these things and then creating other small groups like the AES Cypriot Ensemble. I believe that the market at that time was looking for, let's say, alternative ways of replacing the musicians of Greece that they were coming with the famous name with Cypriot groups. Because of that, we were used from producers in Cyprus to fill in these gaps. And this is my own take of the situation. So some dreams that I had from early on, that I wanted to play with some famous singers and songwriters and all this that a teenager wants to before understands what really music is and why you are doing music. It came up after my 30s with a different perspective now on. I had the privilege to accompany different and very specific and very well-known singers and songwriters here in Cyprus, for which I feel very honored.
Tell us about your first solo album, Dancers of Cyprus, which you intend to release soon.
After I came to Cyprus and after my 30s, let's say, and I was called to play to different traditional folk groups and accompany different dancing groups. I was being asked all the time to play, of course, the Cypriot music. A repertoire that, of course, I was playing, but every group was requesting their different style because of the recordings that they had. So all these recordings were coming to me and from the dancing groups, and they were like, oh, we want you to play like this guy. We want you to play like this guy. We want you to play like this guy. So all these archives, and then later on, hundreds more. I collected them because I reached a moment where I was, okay, where is Pavlos in this music? So I realized that I needed to put down all the archives that I had and decide finally, what is the melodies that you want to play, Pavlos, on the violin, and be yourself. I went out, I searched, I went to the houses, I looked around, I asked from friends, I asked from the dancing groups. I made a really huge collection of recordings of tunes, of melodies, of pieces, of the Cypriot music that I decided that, okay, I cannot play all things in, let's say, S&D, but I can select few that we can only, let's say, hear them in Cyprus. And you cannot really correlate them with a similar melody from, let's say, from Greece or Minor Asia or from somewhere else. So I ended up with 26 tracks for my new personal album, which I call Dances of Cyprus. Of course, we need to clarify that because this music has its differentiations from area to area in Cyprus, of course they are played in different kind of styles, in different ways, depending on each violinist. So nobody can claim that this is the right way. No, this is the way that Pavlos chose to say Pavlos is playing these tunes this way, but having in the background a 20 years research and bibliography and recording collection that can base his playing and excuse his playing and what he selected from this bibliography. So if you want to accept, let's say, these melody lines, because maybe you are not used to, it's your choice, and also it's your choice to like or not my playing. But at least we are in an era from now on, at least for myself, that I have a clear image of what this repertoire should sound like with a new playing that passed through a technical education. Let's put it this way.
What challenges, in your opinion, are currently confronting the instrument industry in Cyprus?
It's the working status of the artists in Cyprus, of course. This is the most challenging one for every government that needs to face it. Because how do you recognize an artist? Because it's not only the diplomas. And of course, we are limited in population. That's a natural restriction that we have in Cyprus. Because due to the population, we need to recycle our audience every time. So how many times are you coming to listen to me playing the same things or different projects? You're always coming to see Pavlos playing. How many times are you coming to see me playing? I hope that I can serve in a better way and improve myself in this kind of music, because it never ends, and we are always looking for what's coming next and how we can improve what we are doing, and try to take this information not only in Cyprus but also outside of Cyprus. That will be a major task and very difficult one, I believe so. I'm just trying to find ways to play with really good friends and having a good time, and play what I really like most and what makes me different from others, and being unique and offering that uniqueness to our friends.